So let's see what we got here. And... oh, so they do come pre-made. Welcome back to the workbench. We are going to make this guy. This will be a little bit of a new adventure for me. I've never actually built a 40K model, and as well as I decided this whole process, I'm going to do something different. So the camera angle is different. It ends up my head gets in the way, but that's a thing I learned out later. But the really cool, kind of a lot of work idea that I took will show when I start brush painting, so keep that in mind. So this weird hammer power thingy, I made it more look like a sledgehammer. This thing is floating here, and I don't like that. So I'm going to use some wire and make like a little holder for it. So after drilling 2 holes, 2 at the handle and then 2 up front by the actual weighted part, I used some 24 gauge copper wire, stabbed it through the holes, rolled it over, and then gave it some super glue to secure to the thing, as well as kind of build up so it looks like it's welded on. Another fun thing I did was take the top grab handle, some Tamiya tape, cut the Tamiya tape in half, wrap it around like there's an extra grip on the thing. I normally would make it myself, but I like the thickness of this grab handle. Speaking of grab handles, we've got these 2 on the side over here that need some attention, which is a very similar process to how the holder for the sledgehammer above is made, so I'm not really going to show the whole thing, just kind of skip to the end. Now I really like making grab handles. They just add this lived-in, used look to anything I'm making, so it's really worth doing if you've never done it before. Totally recommend. The next thing to tackle is the railing up here. It just needs something extra just to look better, which will happen to be some orange string. So this, I glued it down to start and then just kind of started wrapping it around, just trying to make it look like it had separated and somebody was trying to forcibly keep it together. Not saying it's the best work, and I'm not saying this is the best time to do this, but I did it, so here we are. The next area of interest is the back ladder, the bladder. This one just looked way too pristine. I mean, come on, I did the grab handles, they need something. So I grabbed some pliers and just kind of gently twisted some of the rungs, as well as spread the top out, just to give it some effect of, hey, it's not perfect and pristine. My wheel! I'm still a kid at heart. Anyway, I've kind of not talked about this gaping hole on the side, so let's actually do that now. So hear me out, this thing took me almost a week to make, and it's really tiny. So at the start of this project, I knew I didn't really want to keep that gun mantle on the side. It just wasn't going to work with where I was going with it, so I needed something. I thought maybe I could make a crane and that would look good, but at the time, I was struggling to find materials as well as come up with inspiration. Instead, I ended up stumbling on a water cannon made by the user Seemomster on printables. It's actually a life-size water cannon. Really cool, greatly appreciate that project. Tried to make that work for my application, it just totally didn't. Which is where the week worth of time went. Like, I modeled this in, I don't know, a couple hours and then printed it in 5. I did say it was a really old printer. Anyway, let's get to priming. So this is Mission Model's gray primer. It's a hybrid paint, so not really a true acrylic, not truly a true lacquer. You do have to use their thinner, or at least a Createx one, because otherwise it won't activate and then stick to the product. But I've found even if I don't wash my finger oils off the model or whatever I'm working on, this stuff still sticks. So I figured, I'll use it up. So while I'm finishing up priming, I do want to talk about what my overall intentions for this project are. So I had gotten in my head that I wanted to make an old mint green truck, particularly this guy. This is a 1955 Ford F150 in mint green. It's a resto-mod, so I don't know if that color is truly original, but I do know mint green is a thing. Hopefully this turns out. And the mint green I'm going to use is RAF, underside sky green 610, also known as mecha pale green. It's frickin' mint green and I love it. Now yes, this is a Mission Models paint. I'm kind of love-hate relationship with them. Some days I'm like, yeah, they're great, some days I'm not. I'm told that's weird. But in this case, this was one of the paint colors I could see in person and get it locally, so I was like, yeah, I'll work with it, right? And that, my friends, is a mint green truck. Of course, I'm not just gonna keep it flat. No. We gotta make this thing gloss, and heavy, high gloss. And after 2 failure coats, we got this guy. Look at how shiny that is. But this too was not spared from the failure. It did have some weird lift off in this corner here. I tried to cut it and put it down, but it's there. I figure once I throw some mud, some other effects on it, you'll never see. If you remember way back in the beginning, I said that I was going to try some new filming techniques. This is going to be the start of that. I think I might only do this one section and keep everything else standard, but let me know what you think. I think it's good, but it takes a lot of work to do. That's one part down. Let me do the next. Now let me move to the back section, which no, I am not going to keep going with that 1.5 second jump. I actually got some other things I want to talk about, and it's kind of hard to do when you're just time jumping. So I will talk about paint color at the very end. I did also paint around the sides, so like the front and then the other side of the control panel. Those are ready to go. It's just the railing and then this guy. So I'm making these 2 squares the main brake lights, I guess, and then right above it I'll also do those as the, your turn signals and then your normal just parking lights. Interestingly, the yellow that I'd started for the turn signals just really didn't want to take, and I ended up having to go back and do some amber. Regardless, I'm running out of things to say on this, so I'm just gonna kind of jump forward. And by jump forward, I mean inspect my work. Show off the whole thing, maybe show off some of the errors I made, but all in all, she's looking pretty good. But we can do better. Which means it's time for panel lines. This is a dark wash. I've already kind of gone around it, but this is the side you haven't seen yet, so, enjoy. But the main goal of this is to just kind of emphasize some of these darker recessed areas or bring out some extra shadows. I'm even going this at 2 times speed just because it takes a lot of time to do, but if you don't do it, you really don't get the nice shadows and recessed areas, so absolute necessity. After some major cleanup, we can move back to the exhaust. Now this just gets a 2-tone rust wash. It's going to be a light and dark. Nothing crazy here. It's pretty much just kind of start throwing it on there while it's still wet, slowly let it blend or kind of let it naturally blend. There's only so many ways of making this exciting, so don't want to talk too much about it, but I really do like the overall effect when it gets to the end. Maybe I should show that instead. So while I'm gluing on the wheels here, let's actually take a look at this effect now that it's dry. If we notice, we got some high spots, some low spots. It's got this really nice overall rusty texture. And the wheels, they're kind of really boring. I didn't do anything too crazy to it, just kind of a dark gray around the outside, a nice neutral gray on the inside, and then I coated them in a layer of mud splashes, because that's really the next thing after this. So using a questionably shaped, it's an old brush that got trashed somehow, and a airbrush needle, what we can do is get some of the paint on your brush and then just start flicking it across. What this does is creates a bunch of little dots as well as some streaking effects. It kind of gets it all over in a good way, allowing us to make as close to realistic splashes as we possibly can. Now there will be some times where you're going to have to kind of either wipe them away because it gets too far up, or stop and kind of be like, no, I need a lot more of the effect here. But for the most part, you can get away with this and it works great. It also reminds me of finger painting or, some kind of thing that you would do as a kid. So, I don't know, it makes it fun for me. But the last bit that we need to take care of is these wheel arches. They're just too new, too clean looking, so I'm just gonna start slapping this in here and kind of cover it up. Nothing crazy, I should have done it beforehand, but you know, hindsight's 20/20. But let me get through the final details here. So this is my other workbench. And this is a piece of balsa. And so the plan is to use this to make some wooden truck rails. Starting off, we need to cut a very thin strip of this 1/16 inch balsa. And I'm just using this piece of wood here as a fence because I don't know where my rulers went. Afterwards, we can cut a slightly thicker strip, glue them together, and we'll end up with these two things. And then finally, the last step is to glue them on. I'm just using some super glue here, just kind of quick, hold them in place, and that's it. And so that's where I'm going to end this project here. It's been, well, I'll be honest, I really didn't care for this project, so that's why I decided I'd do some different camera techniques and kind of go with it to see what happened. But I mean, all in all, it turned out pretty well. You know, even with some of the blemishes that I'll show off in a little bit, this thing looks really good. And before I start showing off all the blemishes, while I got you looking at the nice pretty thing, if you like what you see, feel free to subscribe, give this video a like, drop me a comment if you gotta tell me something. Now let's get to the error showcase. I'm gonna use this screwdriver here as just a pointy stick, so don't mind that. And here we are. Looking up closely, we can see that the wood rails are not parallel like they should be. I actually had to replace that one there because I tried to stain it and it just looked horrible. Bottom's not fully painted, but that's normal for me. And then over here by the headlights and some other areas, anywhere I touched up, that paint was a very different color. Because I had to repaint the clear 3 times, I guess I changed that color entirely. Nothing I can really do about it, didn't notice it until literally the very end. Next we got over here in the hammer holder, this one's painted and yet the other one's gray. In fact, this side's kind of the forgotten side because if we also look at this rail over here, that's just gray and everything else is painted. Whatever. But as I said before, even with all the blemishes, it looks pretty good and I am actually kind of happy about it, so. But I don't want to drag this on any further, so thank you for watching and I will see you in the next one.